Debbyites, we're back for yet another high holy day of the Emmys. It's so exciting. For me, this is the number one day of the year. Really, really is, because there's just so much great TV on these days and we get to celebrate it tonight. I am here with really just some of the best in the business. I'm so excited. We've got Luca Giliberti all the way from Germany. What time is it over there?
It's midnight.
Jeez. Lucky you're so young and sprightly.
That's true.
We've got Sam Eckmann on the East Coast. Welcome. And we've got Marcus James Dixon, dressed to the nines, looks like $1 million on the West Coast. Guys, it's so wonderful to have you all on to join me for the first section of our 2-hour pre-show as we count down to the big night. I am so excited. I only woke up not long ago. I've had my coffee. I've had my Nutella on toast. I'm really loving life. Now, there's a lot to talk about. Let's just make a start straight away. I need to know what you all think will be that one shocker of the night, because frankly, a lot of these awards categories, I feel like they're already pretty much locked in. And I'll probably eat my words later on when a lot of these categories will be completely blown apart by ridiculous shocks. But for now, we've done the analysis, we've done the thinking, overthinking, we've done the chatting. We think we know what's going to happen, but there's going to be some surprises. I can feel it in my gut. I just feel like something's going to go either really, really good or really, really awry. So, Sam, I'll go to you first. Have you got a sense that something's going to really shock the crap out of us tonight?
You know, after the creative arts ceremony, Queen's Gambit dominated so much. We were worried that it was going to sort of fade a little bit. It wouldn't be able to hold on to its momentum so many months after its release, because there's been so many amazing limited series that have come out since then. But after it won all those categories, some of which it didn't even need to win, I moved Thomas Brodie Sangster up to second place in my supporting actor for limited series category. And I'm really tempted to put him in the first place position, overtaking Evan Peters, which sounds insane. Evan's been in so many of our favorite shows. This seems like finally it's going to be his moment, but Queen's Gambit just steamrolled the competition. And I think people just still love this series. They clearly, wanted it all the way down the line. Many different branches voted for it in creative arts, and I think it's poised to do really well. I still have Evan Peters winning because it just seems like Mare of Easttown only has a few places where it can win, and people were talking about that often. But I have a feeling that we're going to see a surprise there, and Evan will have to wait, and it'll be Thomas's name called.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I think we're going to be talking more about Thomas Brodie Sangster a little later on in the pre-show, because I know for a fact that our illustrious managing editor, Chris Beachum, is probably of the same mind. So that's very exciting. You're right. The Queen's Gambit totally, I think, just really overperformed. And even though it's been the buzzy show all year, all season, like it became a surprise blockbuster at Netflix and at Gold Derby. I just thought the buzz had died off a little because of Mare of Easttown and WandaVision, and that does not necessarily think. I don't think that's actually the case. So I think you're right. That's a category that we should be looking out for. And to be honest, before we go to you, Luca, I must say there's a lot of the actor categories, not actress, because we're still having these, the gender split at the Emmys, unlike at other awards. The actors are causing me severe heartburn, and I've taken the pills to get rid of the heartburn, and it's not working. So, Luca, what do you think is going to be something that's just going to completely blow our socks off tonight in terms of surprises?
Oh, I actually think there are going to be a lot of surprises. I think there are a lot of categories that are locked in, but I do think they'll throw a lot of curveballs in our direction. And I always look at the directing categories for surprises. I feel like the director's branch is very unpredictable. on the drama side, on the comedy side, and on the limited series side. Sometimes they make very interesting choices and choices we just don't expect. I remember Jason Bateman winning for Ozark in 2019. And last year, even though Succession did win, it was for Hunting and not for the season finale, which we all predicted. Yeah. So I always like to, or even Unorthodox. So this year, I think comedy directing is where we might see a surprise, because Ted Lasso is obviously the front runner for comedy series, but it has 3 nominations here. And with 3 nominations, I just can't see one of them or one of those episodes winning. And so for me, the choice was between The Flight Attendant, which won DGA, where Ted Lasso was also nominated twice and maybe or maybe not split the vote. But I actually went with Hacks, because I think Hacks is the runner-up in comedy series. And when in doubt, I think to go with the runner-up is safer than to go with something like The Flight Attendant, even though it won DGA. Last year, Unorthodox won in limited series directing. Yeah. And of course, Watchmen won series, but it had 3 nominations in directing. And I do think that Unorthodox may or may not have been the runner-up, and maybe that's why it won directing. So that's why I'm going with Hacks in directing.
Okay. Well, you know what? From your lips to God's ears, because and this is coming from an atheist, but I think Hacks is so wonderful, and I'd love to see it win a few things, apart from Gene Smart, which we think will happen, even though, Ted Lasso is one of my favorite shows. So, Marcus, what about you? Like, tell me, just make the heartburn go away, because I just don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, I am predicting a big shocker for Best Comedy Series. Everyone's doing Ted Lasso, but I'm picking Emily in Paris. There's just this love for that show. If you're not picking it, you need to rethink.
Especially production design. I think the production design is going to tip it over the edge. Did you agree?
Yeah, I totally agree. And everyone watching, you have 1 hour to change your predictions in every category. So hurry, and if you haven't updated in a while, there are actually 2 categories that we had to switch from the creative arts to the Emmys. So there's a lot of people that have only picked 25 out of 27. So you will not, get number 1 in a contest unless you actually go in and predict those 2 categories.
Yeah, so hurry up.
As far as shockers, I'm pretty much playing it safe in a lot of categories. I'm either picking the number 1 or the number 2 choice at Gold Derby. The one category I'm kind of going on my own is movie limited actor. I have Ewan McGregor winning that. And I could honestly see all 5 guys winning this. A lot of people are going with Hugh Grant, which, he's the only nomination for that show. And I know people are screaming Mark Ruffalo was the only nomination for his show last year, but Mark Ruffalo gave a performance. He played 2 characters, one of which had mental, issues. And that was the best performance in the category. You can't say the same about Hugh Grant. Paul Bettany, a lot of people were predicting Paul Bettany for a long time, but then WandaVision really underperformed last week. So I had him up until last week, and then I switched him out and put in Paul. I put in Ewan McGregor. Not a lot of people, but I've spoken to a few people in the know who are kind of clued into this stuff, and they're going with Ewan McGregor for Halston. I just guess I didn't quite buy the argument, because Halston was generally not that well received, and I think Ewan McGregor kind of made it in almost by default because he's such a popular, well-respected actor. I got to say, I kind of see where you're coming from, Marcus, and generally, I tend to put a lot of weight into what you argue with this stuff because you know what you're talking about. But with Hugh Grant, I do think he actually gave a performance. He plays against type. He plays like, a vicious, crazy, spoiler alert, by now it shouldn't be a spoiler, killer. Right. And there are some scenes that just completely blew my mind with him. And I think that the voters will agree. I just have to say one thing about that. That's not revealed till the end. He does not give his performance until the final episode. Yeah. So if a voter, we don't think, these voters probably didn't watch the show. If they watched it, it would have got more nominations, right?
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. I think he does give the performance in kind of early on, particularly when he's in jail in episode 2. There's a lot of nuance. I just think it's really special, and I think he was nominated for good reason. Like, they ignored the rest of the show. They found it was probably not their thing, but he made it in. But anyway, it's a really tough category, and you're right. All 5 of these guys could totally take this out, and we need to be very, very aware of that. I would love to see Paul Bettany take it, but I just would find it really odd that he wins and then WandaVision fails in so many other places. So, as a WandaVision crazy person fan, probably like Sam, I think we're both in the WandaVision camp. I'm not sure about you, Luca. I can't remember. So, that being said, that's where we think some of the huge shockers are going to happen. As for me, I am. Look, I really don't know, because I still keep thinking about comedy supporting actor, and it's really starting to give me I'm getting chills over it. I just don't know what to do, because we've got 4 Ted Lasso actors. We've got Paul Reiser and Carl Clemens Hopkins, one from Kominsky Method, one from Hacks. And then we have 2 Saturday Night Live players. So if there's this thing called vote splitting, then the Ted Lasso guys and Saturday Night Live to a lesser extent are going to suffer. But that means then Paul Reiser or Carl Clemens Hopkins takes it, and I just don't buy that. So it's going to be probably one of the SNL guys or one of the Ted Lasso guys. So then that leaves us with, okay, well, who is the most kind of well-known or beloved or acclaimed? And in that case, I think it's Brett Goldstein. I think he really makes the show, and season 1 was, a lot of it was about him. So a lot of people seem to be predicting Brett, and I'm not, but I'm probably going to make that change shortly while I'm talking to all you guys. And remember, everybody, keep going back to your predictions and, make all those tweaks, because this is your last chance. And then if it's a Saturday Night Live guy, will it be Bowen Yang, who was, such a big, he was just everywhere. It felt like he was everywhere this past season. And then you've got Kenan Thompson, who was also nominated in lead actor. So they obviously really love him too, and he seems overdue. So I'm getting a lot of confusion about this category. And I think you guys are in the same boat, that this one is a really tough one to predict. Marcus, do you agree, or are you pretty convinced that this one is not as difficult as we think it is?
I'm not losing sleep over this one. I think the iceberg will do it for Bowen Yang. I think that was so viral. So that sketch was just so beloved. I can't see him losing. And yes, the Kenan will get a lot of votes. Will it be enough votes to take it away from Bowen Yang? I don't know. But I'm sticking with Bowen Yang. He's my guy, and he's going to make history. If Kevin Jacobsen were here, he would say he's the only featured player to ever be nominated for SNL, let alone possibly win.
Yeah. What about you, Sam?
I agree. I'm also going with Bowen. I do think it's a close race here, but a lot of people picked Kenan early on because he's the longest running member of the cast right now, and so he's been nominated several times. But Bowen just has this history making narrative about him, and even more importantly than that, what we see across all these nominations, especially this year with COVID, and this year as streaming, as there is just more and more content produced, the things that break through and the things that really make it at the end of the year when we do these Emmys are what breaks through as real water cooler moments and the most talked about things, the most talked about shows, the most talked about performances. And I think that's Bowen Yang in this category. As Marcus said, the iceberg is going to do it. That went viral. Everyone knows that. Even if you don't watch the show every week, you have seen that sketch. And I think that's going to be enough for Bowen Yang to pull out a victory.
Luca, do you agree with Sam and with Marcus?
I don't. I'm not losing much sleep over this category either, but I think this is Brett Goldstein. I understand that there are 4 Ted Lasso men in the category, but Ted Lasso is just so incredibly strong that I don't think it matters. I think Brett Goldstein has stolen everyone else's thunder. The second season airing in the middle of voting only helped. I understand why one of the SNL men could win. The arguments are there, and they make a lot of sense, but I still think it's going to be very hard to decide between the two. I mean, Bowen Yang himself, not that it necessarily matters, but he campaigned for Kenan. He asked people to vote for Kenan. So I honestly do believe that they might cancel each other out. SNL hasn't won a supporting category or any category at the main ceremony since, I believe, 2017 was the last time. And I just think Ted Lasso is too huge. I've seen so many actors single out Brett Goldstein, and that is honestly enough for me to put him in number 1. Vote splitting matters sometimes, and sometimes it doesn't. And I think this will be an instance where it does not matter.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's both the arguments are compelling. The reason why vote splitting for me is giving me some pause is because there's 4 of them. But Tony DeMeo in our chat room made a really good point, and season 2 really helps Brett Goldstein, which is streaming right now. So people are catching Ted Lasso season 2 while we're celebrating season 1, and Brett Goldstein is so wonderful in season 2, more likable. Kind of like cuddly, and we Gold Derby nerds know that cuddle factor, really important for awards winning. It's about who you like, who you want to give a hug to, in terms of the Academy voters, and I think Brett Goldstein fits that bill. So I think I'm going to make a change. I've had Bowen Yang in there for a while. I think I'm going to make the swap. Famous last words.
Yeah.
Now,
I'm trying not to make any last-minute changes today. The last change I made was after the creative arts. I made a few changes then, but I'm not changing anything today. I didn't yesterday.
I'm really glad you're not, because Marcus, sometimes you do make those changes and then they always seem to bite you on the backside. So don't make those changes.
Yeah.
But everybody else, go and make those changes. Now, we've had a few questions about the order of the rundown of tonight's ceremony. Go to Gold Derby, because guess what? We have the exclusive. It's all there. Chris Beachum. There's no one better in this biz than Chris Beachum. He has the scoop. Go to Gold Derby, check out the order. It's very, very interesting. I'm really excited. They're not doing the groupings by genre this year, which I think is a nice change, just to mix things up. Because I just find it can be a little bit like anticlimactic when we have the groupings of the genres and then we're like, okay, now it's time for reality and now it's time for variety. So first 2 awards of the night are Comedy Supporting Actress, which will be presented, we think, by Seth Rogen, and then Comedy Supporting Actor, which will be presented by Yara Shahidi. So they're cool. So we're going to have the really interesting Comedy Supporting Actor prize given out quite early. In Comedy Supporting Actress, what's going to happen there? That's also a pretty interesting category. I know that Hannah Waddingham is well out front in terms of our odds, but Hannah Einbender, the other Hannah, is also a compelling argument. I think a compelling argument can be made for her. She's a co-lead. She's what an amazing breakthrough performance from her in Hacks. So will it be one of the Hannahs? Am I wasting my time here? And it's just all about Waddingham. What do you think, Luca?
Yeah, I think it is Hannah Waddingham. I sort of have no doubt. I do think Hannah Einbinder's in second, and I do think she is in this race, and I think she is very strong in this race. But again, Ted Lasso is just too popular this year, and she won Critics' Choice. We should probably mention that. I'm not sure that necessarily matters now, but people love her character. People love her. She's been campaigning a lot. I just think this is pretty easy. I think that she's walking away with this pretty easily. I think Hannah Einbinder is someone who might have to wait a year or two, and then I think she can definitely win sometime in the next few years.
Do you agree, Sam?
Yeah, I mean, I think, since everything's on weird schedules now, there's going to be some year in the Emmy future where Ted Lasso is not competing, and a year where Hacks will be. And then Hannah Einbinder will definitely be extremely competitive for a win, I think. But I'm not sure, the Hacks discussion has really all centered around Jean Smart when you talk to people about that show. And I just think Ted Lasso is so strong that Hannah Waddingham is just going to walk away with this one.
Yeah. Marcus, I'm guessing you agree.
Yeah, and Luca mentioned her Critics' Choice win, Hannah Waddingham's Critics' Choice win. She gave the best speech of that night. Yeah. It was so lovable, so huggable, and I really want to see her do that on the big stage. And I imagine there's some voters that saw that speech and they're like, I want her to win an Emmy. I really don't think this is like a vote split situation because Juno Temple is nominated. I don't think Juno's going to take too many votes away. So I think Hannah Waddingham's pretty safe here.
Yeah, not to mention, Juno Temple is fantastic in Ted Lasso, but season 1 was really all about Rebecca. Her character's name is Rebecca, right?
Yes. Rebecca Great again.
That's right. Sorry, my brain's not working. It was about her journey. In the first few episodes, we really didn't like her. She was kind of the villain, and she's just obviously we find out what she's up to. By the end, I just wanted to give her the biggest hug and
we had happy tears in our eyes for where she gets to by the end of the season. And in season 2, oh my God, Hannah Waddingham, she's just killing it. So I'm really looking forward to that. And talk about speeches at the Gold Derby Awards. Her speech was awesome as well.
And speaking of villains, I mean, Jane Lynch won this for Glee. She's the tall blonde villain on that show, and she won. And Doris Roberts was kind of an antagonistic figure on Raymond, and she won, what, 4 times? I forget. It was a lot.
Yeah, that's really true. So, okay, I think we've got them covered. So let's move on. I'm going to go down the running order, actually, and we'll just talk about them. And then before you go, I'll get the big 3 from you very quickly. We've got 10 minutes until our next group. Limited movie supporting actress. That's going to be presented by Billy Porter and MJ Rodriguez, who may be up, maybe winning later in the evening. We'll see. So look, I'm going to go to you first, Sam, for very good reason. If Kathryn Hahn doesn't win this, I'm going to be very upset. I'm going to have 2 kids in this house who are watching the Emmys with me today because we're currently not at school today, and they're going to be pretty pissed off. So, is there any chance she's going to lose? And if she loses, what will happen?
Rob, I don't even know why you would manifest that into the universe.
Yeah.
So I don't know what you're saying, but this feels like Kathryn Hahn is just an actor's actor. And this really, more than any role she's ever had, because a lot of her career has been filled with, indie roles or things that maybe didn't take off in like a big famous way. But this is has been her year. And this is a role that now has introduced her to millions and millions more people than probably anything she's done before. And, yes, there's been other, like the limited series, those categories are super strong. But this one in particular, she doesn't have to compete against a Queen's Gambit actor. So I just think there's not a character in this category who has become more iconic than Agatha all along. And she rocketed up to the top of the iTunes chart with that song. So I just think if it's not her, I don't know what'll happen. I will be really upset, and no offense to the other women who are very talented, but this just feels like, sometimes with award shows, we crown someone's moment. And Kathryn Hahn has definitely had her moment this year. And I just don't see. I know there's a lot of people thinking Julianne Nicholson could do it, and she's an actor I've admired for a long time. So I'm glad she's getting recognized for this role. But it just seems like Kathryn Hahn's year.
Yeah. Just to remind everybody, the nominees there are Moses Ingram from The Queen's Gambit, not Marielle Heller, by the way, Moses Ingram, Jean Smart and Julianne Nicholson from Mare of Easttown, and Renee Elise Goldsberry and Philippa Sue from Hamilton. 6 months ago, Hamilton, because we were still riding high from the Disney Plus Hamilton special, all I could hear in this household was people singing the Schuyler Sisters. So they're obviously iconic as well, but Kathryn Hahn really did something so incredible with that character. Luca, please tell me, is it going to be Agatha all along or what?
I do have Kathryn Hahn in number 1 for obvious reasons. They've all been mentioned. I think it's pretty obvious why she would win. As you said, it's just an iconic character. It's just an iconic performance now, and it's been talked about a lot. I don't think it's a lock. I do think Julianne Nicholson and maybe even Jean Smart are in the running, especially Julianne Nicholson. You don't watch Mare of Easttown and watch that finale and not be in some way moved by that performance in the finale, especially actors. I don't like to use this term, but I do think Mare of Easttown is an actor's show, whereas the performances on WandaVision, they're just very different. I'm not saying they're any less impressive. I just think that Julianne Nicholson's performance has probably resonated with a lot of people. And there were a lot of actors talking about that performance when that finale of Mare of Easttown aired. Her problem is that it is her big performance is just in one episode. She does a great work in the others, but it is just that finale. And then she has Jean Smart in the category, and people love Jean Smart on Mare of Easttown. I mean, she was the comedic relief. She was amazing. So I wouldn't be surprised for them to cancel each other out, which is why I went with Catherine Hahn in the end. For again, her song won at the Creative Arts last weekend. I don't like to; those are different branches. But Agatha, all along, the fact that that is getting an Emmy, I think there's just so much attention on that character. So that's why I ultimately went with Catherine Hahn.
Yeah, I think the Agatha performance, it dials. It's like a performance that's dialed up to 11. It's very funny, and it reminds us that Catherine Hahn is such an incredible comedic actress. She's very good at that comic timing. And then in the last episodes of WandaVision, it's more an action sci-fi series, and it's more of a Marvel performance, and it's wonderful too. But those first few episodes, she's just ridiculous as that character, and really gets that sitcom trope acting right. And I just think if it wasn't for WandaVision underperforming last weekend, we wouldn't necessarily be dithering so much about Catherine Hahn. Now, Marcus, I think you're on the same page. You think Catherine Hahn's going to win, yeah?
Right. But if I was a voter, I would actually be voting for Julian Nicholson.
Yeah,
He
me
did
too.
give the best performance in this category.
Yeah.
However, that said, I will stand up and clap my head off when Catherine Hahn wins. I can't wait to see that happen.
Same. I'm so excited to see her win. And not even because I love the character and I'm obsessed with WandaVision. It's just because I've been following her career for such a long time. She was so good in Transparent as the rabbi. And then she was really good in I Know This Much Is True last year that she wasn't nominated for. She's just a wonderful actress. And she's finally hit the big time in terms of a breakthrough in pop culture. And I'm really, really looking forward to her winning. Now, guys, we've only got a few more minutes to go. I'd love to know, you just tell me what you think is going to win the top 3 categories: drama, comedy, limited series. I think we're all going to say the same thing because I think they're all pretty congealed in terms of their favoritism. But Sam, why don't you go first? What's going to win the top 3 as briefly as you can because we're running out of time?
I think a lot of people will probably echo me, but Ted Lasso, The Crown, and Queen's Gambit. There's a slight chance that something else could take over Queen's Gambit's slot, but I don't think there's a definite with like definite WandaVision or definite I May Destroy You, definite Mare of Easttown. So I think it's Queen's Gambit.
Yeah. Luca, I guess you're agreeing, and it's because of Queen's Gambit just blowing everyone away last week.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I think the 3 top categories are pretty locked. I had Mare of Easttown in number 1 for quite a while after the nominations came out, just to, go in a different direction. But after the Creative Arts, there's no way. I think it'll probably win writing and directing, though that's maybe a different discussion. And I just don't see it losing. And The Crown, what is The Crown's competition? Some may say The Mandalorian. Some people are saying Pose. Maybe it's Handmaid's Tale, even though that's about to be completely shut out, perhaps. So I just don't see anything beating The Crown and Ted Lasso. I mean, Hacks is probably the runner-up, but I just don't see it.
Yeah. Marcus, The Handmaid's Tale surely is not going to take this away from The Crown. So what do you think?
And I mean, Luca's right. We're on record territory here. If Handmaid's loses everything tonight, that'll be 21 losses. It's going to beat Mad Men's record of 17.
Tragic.
And it deserves so much better. This season was it was my favorite season, Handmaid's Tale. It was the best season we've ever done. The acting was off the charts, everything. I just can't believe it just got completely shut out last week. Okay, anger aside, I'm over that. Can I mention who's presenting these 3? Because these are the last 3 of the evening, and Chris Beachum has revealed the presenters. Comedy series, Awkwafina. Drama series, Adrian Brody. And the last category, they're saving limited series for last. That's going to be the great Angela Bassett.
Oh, it's going to be so good. It's going to be so good. We're about to bring in our new cast for this pre-show. So while we wait for Kevin Jacobsen, Denton Davidson, and the incredible, unsinkable Chris Beachum, here he is, I'm going to say goodbye to you, Luca, Marcus, and Sam. Thanks so much for joining us, and thank you for your insights, and just thank you for being so wonderful. Now get out. Bye. Have fun.
Have a nice night.
Hey guys, it's so great to have you. So first of all, Denton, thank you. I'm guessing you're still in Minneapolis, so welcome from the middle part of America. Kevin, you're on the East Coast. Welcome to part 2 of our pre-show.
Thank you.
And last but not least, we get a special treat tonight because we have Chris Beachum joining us. Chris, it's so great to see you.
Yeah, I don't often get to do these anymore. I for one thing, we've got so many great people. I just kind of sit back and watch everybody, but I've got so many other tasks to do that I don't often join. So here I am. And you've mentioned me like 4 times now, and none in a negative way.
I know, right? I'm saving all my bitchy stuff for later. No. Of course, you know how much I adore you. Now, look, I'm almost breathless because I'm so excited about Emmy night. This is my #1 awards night of the year. There's so much to talk about. Thankfully, Chris, that you have posted the exclusive run order of the show tonight, so we can kind of use that as our way through the night when we're talking, and then we'll talk about a few things at the end. But before we do that, I just want to hear from all 3 of you very briefly. If you have a no guts, no glory, oh my God, this is going to change everything. It's going to start world peace. What will be the big shocker of the night, Kevin? Tell me.
Oh boy. Well, I am slightly hope-dicting, but sort of having a hunch that a Black Lady sketch show might upset SNL in variety sketch. I'm probably going to regret it. I don't know. I might be giving away an easy point there, but I just feel like, obviously SNL has won the past 4 years, I believe. And I think part of the reason for that is a little bit of defaulting to the obvious show that everyone watches. And I almost wonder if the fact that there's only one alternative here in a Black Lady sketch show, which is, by the way, a show that is continuing to grow in acclaim with the Emmys. It just picked up a Creative Arts Emmy for picture editing, which was a big surprise over things like, Hamilton and Bo Burnham and also SNL. So I am kind of doing a no guts, no glory on that one. I'm probably going to be wrong. Maybe next year it could finally get to that echelon of getting that variety sketch Emmy, but that's my one for this year. I
like it. I think that's really cool. You stick with that, because if you do get that, then you can just lord it over us forever.
I looked at all the editor picks and everyone has SNL, so
you have to do it. Like Chris and I are still talking about picking the lead guy from Homeland like 50 years ago. So this is what we have left to hold on to in these crazy times. Denton, what about you, man?
Well, one of mine is Thomas Brody Sangster for supporting actor for movie limited category. I think I picked him with 100 to 1 odds, so he's got my $500 or 500 point bet, and I just think that category.
I think we're frozen. Are we frozen?
Oh, am I frozen?
Yes. Okay, you're okay now. Go.
I just think that limited supporting actor category could go in any direction. So what do you need in a 6-person race that's like maybe a little over 17%? And realistically, it's probably a 4-person race. But I don't know. I think I'm going to bet on him to ride the Queen's Gambit coattails to the finish line. And my other one is Ewan McGregor. And I agreed with what Marcus was saying earlier, but I also want to just add that I think Hugh Grant, we've seen just lose so many awards already. And that's something that hasn't been mentioned. He's had these nominations. His performance was great, but he's also lost quite a few times. And Ewan McGregor is the star of Halston. He's in it from beginning to end, almost every scene. So I think that's just another category that's close, and I'm just going to go with him.
Okay, that's fair enough. Chris, I know you're pretty high on Brody Sangster. Tell me more.
Well, I hadn't considered him at all, truly, until last Sunday night when after the whole weekend of Queen's Gambit just winning over and over and over and over again, I just thought, hardly anybody predicted him to get nominated. He got in over Bill Camp, who I think all of us would be predicting if he was there, veteran actor and somebody, everybody loves working with. So he has no internal competition. And I just thought people have been watching this kid since he was like 10 years old. He is sort of a veteran actor, even though he's like 30. I think he could do it. I moved Moses Ingram up to second, and not Julianne Nicholson, not Jean Smart. I do think Catherine Hahn, But for the same reason, I think Moses Ingram could definitely be a spoiler over in supporting actress too. We see these roles. The only thing we've learned in the last 3 or 4 years since they switched up, allowed more people to vote in every category and made the episodes less important. You're supposed to watch things, but you don't have to, is sweeps. That's what we've learned the last 3 or 4 years. If a show gets on a roll, you just can't stop it. They'll just market it in every category they can possibly market. So that's why I went with Thomas. I think Ewan McGregor is possible. I've listened to Marcus's arguments, and now I've listened to Denton's. But the thing about Hugh Grant is he came up against Mark Ruffalo everywhere he lost. And Mark Ruffalo was on last year's Emmy cycle. So I don't know that we've seen Hugh Grant in this type of contest. That's why I'm going with him. I think it's very possible. I know Paul Bettany could do it, especially if they just, if WandaVision starts winning several, but I don't know. I don't know anybody that got done. And I love Paul Bettany with that show and said, wow, that Paul Bettany blew me away. I mean, I just don't know. I think Leslie Odom's ahead of Ewan McGregor, just on sheer volume of work over the last year and the fact that he had 2 Oscar nominations.
Yeah, that's giving us a lot to think about, isn't it? It's tough. It's really tough. Before we move, well, the next category in our list is actually limited movie supporting actor. It's going to be presented by Vanessa Lashy and Wilma Valderrama. It's really good that it's towards the beginning of the show. It's the 4th category of the night because it's one where I think we're not going to know who wins. We think Thomas Brady Sangster has a really good chance now. I'm still going with Evan Peters. As using Kevin's line, I kind of hope dicting a little on that one because I feel like he really, really deserves it for Mare of Easttown. I thought he was just so heartbreaking in that show. I just thought it was one of the best performances of the year. I would love to see him win, and I think he is definitely up towards the top of the race. It's a tough one.
If it's not Thomas on a sweep, it's going to be Papa Essiedu.
Yeah.
I'm guaranteeing it's one or the other. It's one or the other.
Yeah, Papa Essiedu was like, what a breakthrough, amazing performance in I May Destroy You. I mean, them nominating him shows you that they loved that show and they were paying attention because he was amazing in that. So you're right. This is a tough one. Before we move on, guys.
Oh, let me add one thing there too, just for people that are making their final predictions over the next hour or updating. When you go out on a big limb, like I am and Denton is on Thomas, do it on a category where the votes are kind of split all over the place. That way, if you mess up, only maybe 20, 25% of the people had it right. You're not giving away a point like Kevin is on SNL. Where 80% of the people, if Kevin's right on that one, it's a huge, massive, he's going to win all kinds of contests because almost everybody got it wrong and he got it right. But when you give up a point like that and it turns out to be SNL, and I don't know that it will, but if it does, you've given up 2 points really because you got it wrong and everybody else got it right. So I don't think, I'm on a limb with Thomas and Denton is too, but it could be Papa. It could be Evan. It could be Daveed Diggs. Everybody loves him in Hamilton. It's not the other 2 Hamilton people, but Daveed could do it. He's everywhere. He's on every commercial break when I have the TV on.
Yeah. Oh my God! It's just you're just making it worse. You're supposed to be helping, for God's sake. I think we need to quickly talk about comedy supporting actor, Chris, because in case anyone didn't catch our 27 categories in 27 minutes, and if you didn't catch it, what the hell are you doing? You make a very compelling argument for Kenan Thompson there, and I think people need to not be asleep on Kenan Thompson. I think that is a definite possibility. So can you give us like a 30-second rundown about what you think there?
It's not one of the Ted Lasso guys. You're predicting one of them. It rarely happens that somebody beats 3 others. When it does, it's kind of like an obvious choice kind of person. I would not go down the road a couple of years ago when the 4 Game of Thrones ladies were in supporting. Everybody was picking somebody, and I just said, it's not happening. It's one of the other 2 people. It's not, or 4, or whatever the number was. It's not the Game of Thrones ladies. And I don't think it's one of the I don't know. When I talk to Ted Lasso fans, they don't know which of the 4 guys they like the best. So I know Keenan and Bowen could split, which makes me wonder about Paul Reiser, who's on his like 10th or 11th nomination and is sitting there, by himself from Kominsky Method, or Carl from Hacks. That may be another Hacks spot. But I think it's Keenan or Bowen. I'm kind of like Bowen himself. I think I'm going Keenan just because of the veteran. He is the SNL person with the longest career. They put him in for lead, which often when somebody gets 2 nominations for acting, they'll give them one or the other. I don't have that same philosophy on A.D. Bryant, but her 2 categories are kind of locked in. So anyway, that's what I'm thinking. And when Kevin talks, I want to hear his drama supporting. His limited supporting actor, because we didn't hear that either.
Yeah. So Kevin, tell me, who's going to be number?
I have Evan Peters. So I guess we're split down, the 2. We got 2 for Evan and 2 for Thomas. Maybe it's a little bit of just my relationship with him, having watched him for 10 years on American Horror Story, and this feeling that he's doing this big departure. And, this is a great opportunity to give Mare of Easttown something, if they're not going to Kate, if they're just going to Queen's Gambit, just like, Anya Taylor-Joy and everything. But yeah, that's kind of where I am. But I really could see any of them except for 2 of the Hamilton guys.
Yeah. I hear what everyone's saying. I'm still going with Evan Peters. I have a feeling, and I'm going with my feeling. So that's all I got. We're going to move on to drama writing.
No, Kevin's comedy supporting actor.
Oh, okay, go.
Yeah, well, this is one that I've been bouncing between the 3 guys of Brett Goldstein, Kenan Thompson, and Bowen Yang from the start. I had Bowen for a while. I even wrote about him as this huge breakout of SNL, obviously. But I settled on Brett Goldstein, actually. I think you could say the vote splitting thing is a factor between the 4 Ted Lasso guys, but it's not always the case in supporting. And I do think in his case, he's such a standout among the 4 of them. And especially if people are watching season 2, he is getting even more screen time and is almost like a lead to me at this point. So that's what I would argue. He's also campaigning like crazy. He's everywhere. So I think all of that would benefit him in the long run.
Yeah. He's also a writer on the show. He has some kind of creative. He's one of the creatives on that show as well. So people really respect him and can see that he's just such a star. Denton, who did you think is going to win that category, by the way?
I have Keenan, but I don't know. This one is the one where I just throw my hands up in the air because, as everyone said, it could go so many different ways. I would pick Goldstein, but again, it's the 4 nominees. It's one thing to split, but the 4, it just makes it really hard to take. And I'm not confident at all about Keenan. I think, he is a loved veteran actor, but we've seen him lose again a lot of times. I don't know that he is doing anything more than he's done in previous seasons. He's always great. So I could see it going to Bowen, but I have Keenan. If there's a last minute switch I'm going to make, this is the category that's going to do it.
Okay. Well, drama writing is being presented by Mindy Kaling. The nominees are The Crown for War, Handmaid's Tale for Home, Pose series finale, The Boy Is What I Know. The Mandalorian has Chapter 13, The Jedi, and Chapter 16, The Rescue. And then Lovecraft's Country has Sundown. I'm going with The Crown because it's the only Crown here. And War is, frankly, an incredible episode. If anything's going to beat The Crown, it will probably be Pose. What do you guys think? I'm going to you first. Kevin, tell me what you think will win that category.
Well, first of all, I had to take a second look when I was looking at this category and realizing that Peter Morgan still hasn't actually won for writing for The Crown. But I feel like this is time. I don't think that there is quite a strong enough a competitor or a different show that is overshadowing The Crown at this point that in this year that it wins drama series, it just makes sense that Peter Morgan would win too. So I'm actually not too worried about this category personally. Famous last words, I don't know.
Famous last words, but it's insane that Peter Morgan hasn't won for writing it. Like, that is crazy. Denton, do you agree?
Yeah, I have The Crown. I'm not worried about this one either. I thought about Pose for a minute, but people seem to love Ryan Murphy's directing and producing a little more than his writing at the Emmys. So I just think it's the Crown's year. They're going to have a huge night tonight, so it's hard to go against them.
Fingers crossed. Chris, I know that you agree, but talk to me about drama writing, and then let's move on to directing while I've still got you.
Yeah, it's the Crown on writing. They were so smart to just have the one episode. I love these companies and people, producers and so forth that are smart about Emmy. We always lament when we see the Emmy ballots in early June, the show that really could get in, and they submit 8 or 10 episodes in writing or 8 or 10 episodes in directing. You're like, wow, I know there's some contractual problems sometimes, but just be smart. Now directing, I'm going with the Crown there on Fairy Tale. Now what should be the Crown but be War? But Fairy Tale seems to be the episode people are rallying around at Creative Arts and at other places. And so I think very visual episode. I think it's going to win there. But the other one I think about obviously is the other Crown episode. And again, Pose I think might be right here. I know some people are jumping on Jon Favreau for Mandalorian, but I went down that road last year and lost. So I'm not doing that again.
It's funny how The Crown's the only contender in directing with 2 episodes. Everybody else is there on its own. Bridgerton won the DGA. Handmaid's Tale, unfortunately, is not having a very good year, which is really, really sad. Mandalorian won 7 Emmys. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it was 7 at Creative Arts. It's a beast of a show. And Poe's series finale, that seems like a winner in directing. It just feels that way because Murphy's done it in the past in terms of directing prizes. And yet we're going with Fairy Tale. I'm going with Fairy Tale too. And that's because it's the Diana episode when we first meet her. It ends with her in that big dress. There's just so much going on. And it won a few Creative Arts Emmys. There's so much going on in that episode. It's so wonderful. So, I'm kind of going against all my better instincts. There's 2 episodes here from The Crown. Surely there'd be some vote splitting. There's only 2. We're still going with it. Do you agree, Denton?
Yeah, I have the same choice. It doesn't seem to be a problem with vote splitting quite as much with a couple episodes in directing. We've seen that happen before, that people are still able to come up with the win. I was a little concerned about The Handmaid's Tale, just because that made such a big comeback this year, but we're not seeing it really pay off anywhere. I considered The Handmaid's Tale for a while, but I'm going with Fairy Tale for The Crown as well.
And Kevin?
Yeah, I really think that The Crown is far enough in front, kind of like Succession last year, that it can overcome having 2 episodes here. And maybe I'm sort of like copying that win last year and applying it to this year's logic where, War was the finale, and last year the Succession finale people were predicting. But when you look at it, like, there's the Boar on the Floor episode of Succession, and this is the Diana episode of The Crown. And so yeah, it's really such a directing feat to begin with, and really burrowing into Princess Diana and her sort of isolation, that I think directors are going to love that.
Yeah, it's an amazing episode. I've seen it so many times. And I hope it wins. That category is being presented by America Ferrera, Emmy winner America Ferrera. We then move on to just one of the most difficult categories. It's just so close. Drama supporting actress. Oh, I don't know what's going on. Kidding. That is going to be Emily in Paris. Kidding. It's going to be Gillian Anderson. Stephen Colbert is going to give her 2nd career Emmy after Helen Mirren did it 20 odd years ago for the X-Files and whenever it was. I'm very excited about Gillian Anderson winning. I don't know if she's going to be there. Chris, you may know.
She's in London. She was here in LA and she's back in London. So quite a few of the London-based or European-based nominees stayed over there either because it's hard to get out of the country or whatever reasons. So I believe most of the Crown people are in London. I've heard that Josh might be here. I'm in LA.
Yeah, he was on the red carpet actually. So
on the red carpet. Okay.
Yeah.
And there was one other. Oh, who else is nominated? There was one other in the Crown group that I heard might be here, but most of them are going to be over there. And I think, but a lot of the Ted Lasso people are here in LA. They were at a performers reception Friday night. Not all of them, but quite a few of them.
Okay, so that's
But at
really
least we're going to see the people in London. They do have a satellite feed ready to go there, like the Oscars did. So it's not going to be like, so and so was unable to attend, and they're going to be on camera there.
Yeah, I still have a bit of trauma from her Golden Globes acceptance speech where it was just cutting out and buffering and
I think if they're at a party, which I'm assuming they all are, some kind of maybe they were at Anthony Hopkins' house over in Wales. I don't know where they're going to be, but
yeah, I hope so, because the Crown's going to win a lot. It's going to feel like the Schitt's Creek wins last year, where they were all in that room and they were.
Well, the one good thing about the fact that they're not doing genre is when that happens and there's a sweep and you have only comedy all together and all drama all together, it feels way more boring, I think.
Yeah.
Now, I like genre grouping in general. The first year they did it was Jimmy Fallon hosting, so that's like 11 years ago, maybe. I loved it for a while, but if there's a sweep going on, it feels really repetitive.
It does.
At least when they split them up, we don't have that possibility.
I think that could have been some of the thinking behind why they've done it this way, because I think there will be a lot of repeat winners in terms of the same show.
Right.
Guys, Denton and Kevin, I was just thinking, I'm sure you're both predicting Gillian Anderson. Do you have anything like substantive to add to that conversation? Because if not, I was probably going to move on.
The only thing I was going to add was when people don't listen to us or read every word we say, and they sometimes come back with the strangest. Yes, there's vote splitting here, possibility, but no, there's not vote splitting possibility here. When you've got multiple people from the same show, but one's a real standout or winning all the awards, it doesn't matter at all. So it's only when people can't decide. If you've got this is why I'm saying on supporting actor, if you've got Ted Lasso fans and they just don't know which way to go, they do want to vote for Ted, but they don't know which of the 4 supporting actors. That's what I'm kind of hearing from people. Then that's when I think you get the vote splitting.
Yeah. Kevin, anything to add to that discussion?
Obviously Jillian, but the only thing I would add is that I think if this were still like the real hardcore, like blue ribbon panel tape system, that Helena Bonham Carter would be very competitive, as would Anjanou Ellis. I think they both should be contending more than they are. But
yeah.
Hard
I
to
would
ignore
actually
Jillian
say
as Margaret. So
I'd say the same for Samira Wiley and Ann Dowd. They're I mean, look, there's 4 Handmaids actresses in this category, and they're all incredible. This is a very strong category. So even though Gillian Anderson is absolutely one of the locks of the night, she's pretty much gave the performance of the season of any genre, in my opinion. This is a category that I'm very excited about. Brilliant performances. Moving over to the supporting actor side, I'm just having a look here. That's also Colbert's presenting actress. Kerry Washington is presenting supporting actor. That one is a little closer, although it feels like a lot of people are now kind of getting behind Michael K. Williams, the late Michael K. Williams, of course, who passed away after voting had finished. If he wins, it will not be a sympathy vote. It will be because they loved his performance. And he really is such a strong contender from Lovecraft. Courtney B. Vance won last week in the guest category. That absolutely helps in terms of what we think the voters think about that show and the actors on it. I'm still putting him in second. I think that The Crown's going to win a lot tonight. That's where I'm sitting, and I'm not prepared to change. I'm just going to keep going. I think Tobias Menzies will finally win an Emmy. He's had such terrible luck with the Emmys in the past for Outlander and so forth. I think he's going to take this. I really hope he does. I know that I'm probably in the minority there. So, Chris, what do you think will win supporting actor and why?
Before last weekend, I wondered if Lovecraft, being a canceled show, might go over. But when it won a couple, especially Courtney, I thought, okay, Michael can win this. It would be a great moment on the show if that happens. I think his brother might be accepting for him. That's what I've heard, but it might have been another family member. I may be wrong about who, but somebody is designated to speak for him. It'll be a very emotional moment. Like you said, they weren't voting on this category after he died, so it was well over before that. I think he's going to win, and I'm mainly saying that because Lovecraft did better than anybody thought last weekend.
Yeah, it sure did. Denton, do you agree?
I do agree. I went with Michael K. Williams on this as well. I do have Tobias in second. I do think it's going to be close. I'm not certain which direction it's going to go, but I do think Michael K. Williams will prevail here. And I think Kerry Washington is presenting this award, correct? So I'm looking forward to that and hoping he does win. He would be my choice if I had any say that mattered.
Yeah. And what about you, Kevin?
Yeah, I think Michael K. Williams has the right combination of, veteran actor in a show that the Emmys clearly loved. And his performance in the episode, I don't know how many people are watching it, but it's very impactful. And it's just really unfortunate that in the event that he does win, that he won't be able to feel the love from his peers.
Can I say, before last weekend, the person I thought was going to win this, and I think is in second, is Giancarlo. Talk about a person that has been building up Emmy equity over the past few years with Better Call Saul and Breaking Bad. And 30 years in the business. Mandalorian is an Emmy favorite. Now, it hasn't won any, correct me if I'm wrong, it didn't win any Primetime Emmys last year. It won 7 Creative Arts, just like it won 7 this year. But he is one that I think it's neck and neck between Michael and Giancarlo.
Yeah. The only other person I'd like to mention is O.T. Fagbenle. He was a revelation in season 4 of The Handmaid's Tale. He was given a lot more to do. I'm very, very grateful that he was nominated finally. But I think, yes, this is Michael K. Williams with Tobias Menzies as a likely spoiler, perhaps. And Giancarlo Esposito is really lingering because he should have won for Breaking Bad years ago. And I hope he eventually gets to take home an Emmy because he was so wonderful in this show. We've only got a few minutes to go, guys, so I'm just going to get you to just rattle off the top 3. I'm expecting to hear the same thing over and over again, but surely, Denton, it's what we think it is, yeah?
For comedy and...
Drama, comedy, and limited.
Oh, yeah. I'm all in with Ted Lasso, The Crown, and The Queen's Gambit.
Kevin?
So, obviously, Emily in Paris, The Boys, The Underground Railroad. I mean, no, it's what Denton said. Reasons don't need to be.
It's stated. Those 3, and we've seen it. We all thought it going in, and then the Creative Arts cemented that in. I will say, we said this the other day in our chat, Rob. This is the best limited series lineup I think I've ever seen. Any of these 5 might have won in another year, and I can't stand the fact that, and we won't know. I can't stand the fact that something finishes in 4th or 5th, because these are phenomenal. Can I just ask everybody before we go? I know you'll get to it on another group, but I can be convinced to change in the next 45 minutes on that Variety recorded. We all know it's either Hamilton or Bo Burnham, but it's like 50. It's like, to me, the closest category. It's 50-50 based on what we saw last weekend for Bo and based on the history of Hamilton. So just somebody convinced me. I went with Bo because I try to learn from the weekend before. Somebody convinced me I'm wrong, and I'll switch.
I just switched to Bo Burnham as well earlier today, just based on what happened last week. The fact that it's winning all these other awards.
Well, I think the fact that it won directing.
Yeah.
I expected it to win writing, and I don't even remember what all it won. But the directing was like, oh, wow, the director's branch only votes on directors. And they went with somebody who's not, other than the one film, not really known as a director. So that one really was the one that convinced me.
But to play devil's advocate a little bit, it's hard to forget the impact of when Hamilton came out streaming. I mean, that was just a huge moment.
Yeah, I know. 14 months ago.
Right. But yes, exactly. That's exactly it. So it's tough.
Bo aired in May too. And the other thing I've tried to learn over the last 3 or 4 years is what's the buzziest conversation piece, and what have people found? What have people not been forced into voting for or watching, but what have they kind of found on their own and turned into word of mouth? And Bo Burnham was that. Everybody was saying, have you seen the Bo Burnham special?
Yeah.
And that was only in May.
Mm-hmm.
What about you, Kevin?
Yeah, well, I will also add the fact that Hamilton lost things that it probably should have won, like picture editing and sound mixing at Creative Arts, is not a great sign. I wonder if we're going to have a situation where, like, yes, it's fine to give Hamilton the nominations, but there isn't like a big push to give it even more wins than it already has. Like, it's Hamilton. It's a cultural force. We don't need to keep rewarding it
Well, I just
6
hope he's
years
there.
after it was
I
released.
don't want him to snub this ceremony because he didn't go last week when he won
Yeah.
several. And you're going to have Lin-Manuel and the Friends cast and the West Wing cast and all these people sitting there. And, you know, if it turns out to be Bo Burnham and he's not there, that's going to be disappointing.
And Dolly Parton, right? Isn't she the one giving it to him if it happens?
Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be very exciting. I watched it again 2 nights ago, and just, I mean, it's just it's just such a masterpiece, and I expect it will win. But had you asked me 6 months ago, I would have said, "You're saying it's not
Until
Hamilton? Are
last
you
Sunday,
crazy?"
Last Sunday, Hamilton was like a Gillian Anderson for me. Just like, I'm not even thinking about this category.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, guys, I've got to say goodbye to you now and bring in our next batch, Charles Bright, Daniel Montgomery, and Tony Ruiz. So while we're waiting for them to come in, thank you so much for joining us. It's been really great having you guys on, Denton and Kevin and Chris. Good luck with your predictions and have a great Emmys night.
You too.
Now, get the hell out of here. No.
He says, "You get out of here."
Get out of my house. Now,
By the way, Hamilton, yawn.
we've got I don't know what happened to Daniel, so we'll just tap dance while we wait. We've got Tony Ruiz in California. We have Daniel Montgomery on the East Coast in New York, and we have Charlie Bright with that gorgeous blue hair in Virginia. He is the future Lieutenant Governor of Virginia, and he's with us tonight. Guys, I'm so happy to see you. We have
It's
so
a
much to
do
talk
nothing
about.
gig. It pays $36,000 a year. It's a sweet gig.
It's a sweet gig. Yeah, and then you can just retire. So we've already covered a lot of ground. I want to try to move forward and talk about things we haven't talked about yet. So I'm sorry if there's something you desperately want to talk about. Maybe we'll just leave it to the end. Okay, so just do as you're told. That was my best dad voice. Now
You have met us, right?
I have met you, unfortunately. All right, we're going to talk about variety series writing and variety talk series and variety sketch series. We're going to do it all in one.
What will we do with the rest of the minute?
Exactly. So, variety series writing is being presented by Sophia Bush and Daniel J. Kim, variety talk series by Kaylee Cuoco, and variety sketch series by Ken Young. So, Daniel, what's going to win those 3 categories? Because I'm just biting my fingernails with anticipation.
Well, I mean, I'd say 2 of these are pretty easy. Like John Oliver is The Daily Show. I'll believe he can lose when I see it. Until then, I'm going to predict him all the way for writing and for variety talk. I do think variety sketch, there's a chance. I think it was Kevin in the previous segment who was talking about the possibility of an either or situation where, like, an anti-SNL vote where there's just no urgency to reward it again, and now there's just one option that is getting more and more popular with Emmy voters. So I do think it could be Black Lady Sketch Show. So that's not as locked, but I think John Oliver's locked in the other 2.
And Charlie?
Oliver, SNL.
Wow. I mean, and other poems by Maya Angelou. And Tony?
Yeah, same thing. I think that if SNL looked vulnerable, I could see a larger case for Black Lady Sketch Show getting in. But you know, the Dave Chappelle win, the fact that it has so many nominations in the supporting categories, yeah, it's going to win.
And it won 7 times at Creative Arts. There was no like place where voters decided they're not into it this year.
Yeah. So I think, okay, I'm going to move on. We're running out of time. Comedy writing and comedy directing is being presented by the Emmy-winning legendary Dan Levy, Eugene Levy, Catherine O'Hara, and Annie Murphy. These are tough because we've got a whole bunch of Ted Lassos, we've got some hacks in there, and then we've got, no disrespect to the other shows, and then we have everything else. So I just think it's really, this year in the comedy races, it just seems to be all about Ted Lasso and a bit of hacks. So,
Not necessarily in directing.
not necessarily directing, but to me, I'm still going with either one or the other in those categories. So just quickly, just so that people are aware, I'm just trying to quickly scroll past it. So in directing, you've got Hacks, Ted Lasso, Flight Attendant, Ted Lasso, Mom, and Be Positive, okay? So I'm going with Hacks in directing for There Is No Line because it's the only Hacks in the category and there's 3 Ted Lassos. It could be Flight Attendant. And then in writing, there's 2 Ted Lassos, but still only 1 Hacks and 1 Flight Attendant. And I think Hacks could definitely win there, but I'm going with Ted Lasso for Make Rebecca Great Again, even though the pilot would seem to be more likely because they like pilots in writing. The pilot was not the strongest Ted Lasso episode. In fact, when I tell people, you've got to watch this show, it's amazing, I always say, get through the pilot. The pilot's not great, but then it really, really hits its stride. So, Daniel, seeing as you wanted to pipe up first, I want to hear what you have to say about these 2 categories because they're a little tricky.
Yeah, these categories are really up in the air for me. I feel like I'm not confident. Like, I feel like there are like 3 potential winners or 4 in each category. Directing, after it won picture editing, I went with The Hope That Kills You for Ted Lasso, but I've since switched back to the Flight Attendant pilot because Ted Lasso had multiple episodes up at DGA, at the Directors Guild, and lost to the Flight Attendant pilot. So I'm going to go with that here. It's the showiest kind of directed comedy in this lineup. So I'm going to pick that one, but I am sticking with Ted Lasso. I am going with the pilot. I'm not confident about that one because I think Hacks could win, and I think the other Ted Lasso episode can win. But I don't think Ted Lasso is going to have as big a night as it's going to have and lose both writing and directing. So I think its likelier bet is writing, although Hacks could also easily win that. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be weird.
What do you think, Tony?
Yeah, it's weird. Daniel and I almost never agree on exactly on these sorts of things, and for exactly the same reason. Is I'm picking Flight Attendant and directing. I'm picking the pilot of Ted Lasso for writing. I don't think Ted Lasso wins as much as it's going to win and not win either. And so, I think its best chances in writing because it only has the 2. It only has the 2 choices, and pilots tend to do better. So I'm just going with that. It would not surprise me. I have Hacks in second for both writing and directing, but I think Daniel's spot on with this one.
And what about you, Charlie?
Be wrong.
I just recently switched from Ted Lasso in writing to Hacks for the pilot. In writing, I for some reason I just think that with those 3 episodes, or with even with 2 episodes in there of Ted Lasso, I feel like Hacks is going to have maybe a bit of an edge there, and I'm going with Flight Attendant and directing.
Okay, interesting. I'm going to stick with you, Charlie. Before we move on, I really would love just to get everybody's quick thoughts on comedy supporting actor, because it is a category where there is a lot of confusion and there's no consensus, right? So I want to hear something really compelling in terms of an argument. Like, why do you think who you think is going to win supporting actor is going to win?
I have Bowen Yang right now, but I'm still really worried about Brett Goldstein. But weirdly enough, in 3rd place, I have Jeremy Swift from Ted Lasso. I think that, a lot of people are bringing up Brett Goldstein as really loving him in this 2nd season and saying, oh, this 2nd season could really help him. But, I think if you're watching the 2nd season, I think Jeremy Swift has one of the best recurring gags in the series where he volunteers his office to someone else. And throughout the rest of the series, you just see him setting up his office in random places around the stadium, and I think it's hilarious. So I could see that happening, but I feel like I'm erring on the side of caution with Bowen Yang.
Same. That's what I'm doing. You're right about Jeremy Swift. He is so underrated. God, he's funny in that show. Tony, what are your thoughts on comedy supporting actor briefly?
I've had Goldstein from the beginning, and I don't care that there are 4 Ted Lasso guys here. Goldstein has peaked at just the right time. With the second season, he's taken on a lot more of a behind the scenes position in the second season, and that's made a lot of press. So his name has been out there quite a bit, and he is really the standout. You know, the whole thing about vote splitting, people talk about vote splitting without talking about the rule that when there's one that stands out, and Goldstein is so clearly a standout, and never underestimate a good thirst trap as well. So, I mean, you know, I'm sorry to be shallow. No, not really. But yeah, I've had Goldstein from the beginning, and I do have Bowen Yang in second.
And what about you, Daniel?
I've had Bowen Yang since even before the nominations were announced. It just feels like his moment. And I'm like, I do agree this is a close race. I don't see the Kenan Thompson thing. I don't. He's already an Emmy winner for songwriting. He hasn't won for acting, but I don't see the reason why this in particular would be his year. Whereas Bowen Yang feels like there's a lot of heat behind him. He feels like a really true breakthrough performer on SNL. He reminds me very much of how much enthusiasm and passion there was behind Kate McKinnon when she won for the first time leading up to that. So it feels like him to me. I do think Brett Goldstein is my number two. And I could easily see that happening, especially if Ted Lasso just goes on a run. But yeah, I've been on Bowen Yang for a while, and I've never seen a reason to change from that, even though it is close.
See, and now I'm starting to also think: are we sleeping on a potential spoiler here with someone like Carl Clemens Hopkins or Paul Reiser? Who knows?
I've been very what's the word for not shutting up about something?
Charlieing?
Very Charlie.
That too. I'm very vocal about the fact that I feel like if there's one like completely out of nowhere win that we're trying to that we're still trying to justify 2 weeks after the ceremony happens, it might be Paul Reiser.
Yeah. I just feel like we could see a Merritt Weaver type win somewhere, and this is the category where it could happen. Let's move on. So speaking of Bowen Yang, he is going to present the award for comedy actress. Jennifer Coolidge, who I just saw on the red carpet and who looks like $1 million. Love her. She's presenting comedy actor. These are two very interesting categories because comedy actress feels like Jean Smart's win. She's just an Emmy magnet. Comedy actor, on the other hand, also feels like a coronation for Jason Sudeikis. So I can't see a lot of surprises in these categories, hence why I'm lumping them together so we can move on. But Daniel, I mean, have you got anything substantive to add to the argument? Is there anything we should be worried about here?
I don't think so. I mean, I would say Jean Smart faces a bigger threat from Kaylee Cuoco than Jason Sudeikis faces from anyone in his category. But I also still think that Kaylee Cuoco is probably still a distant second there, just given how much support there was for Hacks in the nominations. And we didn't see a lot of groundswell of support for Flight Attendant at Creative Arts. It just won, I think, one music award for main title theme, I think. So, yeah, I feel like Jean Smart and then Jason Sudeikis, like, this should be the cakewalk of cakewalks. Like I can't really figure out a case to make for the other four.
Yeah, the only thing I was thinking is like if there had to be another winner, I was hoping maybe William H. Macy could be argued for because it's like a final goodbye, but that's not happening. Charlie, what do you think in these two categories?
I just agree with everything about Jean Smart and Jason Sudeikis. I will say that this part, in terms of what's going on in the ceremony at this point in the ceremony, is the ceremony is hitting peak gay at that point because you have the cast of Schitt's Creek, very gay friendly show presenting writing and directing. Then you have Bowen Yang presenting an Emmy, presumably to Jean Smart. Then Jennifer Coolidge presenting an Emmy to Jason Sudeikis, who we're just happy to look at. And then we have the competition category going to Drag Race, most likely. So this is going to be the single gayest point of television in all of September.
So will there be like rainbows coming out of the TV, or like what's going to happen?
I think Jennifer Coolidge, I think Jennifer Coolidge brings her own rainbows.
She does. She's amazing.
Jennifer Coolidge will fly in on rainbows.
Yeah.
You know what? Today is already one of the peak gay days, so having the peak gay part of the peak gay day is going to be a really interesting thing to watch, and I'm here for it. Tony, I'm sure you don't really have anything to add to these categories, but
Not a damn thing.
Okay, good. So look, let's move on to competition program. Another nail-biter. RuPaul yet again. Does everyone agree? I mean, it's really
how
like,
does it lose this after the creative arts weekend it had?
yeah, and also it's completely deserving. I'd never ever watched a show in my whole life until this season when I needed to prepare for some interviews, and now in this house, my kids. Maybe I might get into trouble from the children's services, but they watch every season, and everyone's obsessed with RuPaul.
So do half of my students. So
yeah, it's so good. Season 13 was a very strong season, and I can see why it wins. The production value on that show is incredible. It's very empowering. It talks about loving yourself before you can love anybody else. It's funny. It's well written. RuPaul is a genius, so that's winning in a heartbeat. The other shows in the category are fantastic too. It's a really, really strong category. It says a lot about how reality TV has come such a long way. After that, we have the Governor's Award being presented to Debbie Allen. That's going to be cool. I wonder if there'll be one of those awesome Oscar numbers, those interpretive dances that they did to Saving Private Ryan. That will be one thing that I'll never forget about Debbie Allen. Let's hope not. Okay, we're going to move on then to limited movie writing. Now, here we go again with a category where a week or two ago we would have been dithering, and now everyone's hopping on the Queen's Gambit bandwagon, or some people will say, I've had it from the very beginning. Doesn't matter. A lot of people were thinking that limited was going to be a very competitive genre this year, and after last weekend when the Queen's Gambit just basically smashed everyone out of the park, what are we thinking? What will Patrick Stewart be presenting the award to? How about you go first, Tony?
Yeah, I've been waffling throughout this entire thing between the Queen's Gambit, WandaVision, and Mare of Easttown. And then last week happened, and I'm total bandwagon, guilty. And yeah, I think Queen's Gambit's taking both of them. I do think directing could be a surprise. We've seen surprises in directing before, and so I think WandaVision could pop in there, but I'm gonna play it safe and just I'm making daring choices elsewhere. I'm not gonna be daring here.
Yeah, I should mention also the directing prize is going to be presented by the cast of Reservation Dogs, a show about Indigenous Americans, starring Indigenous Americans, a show I haven't seen yet, but I'm going to actually seek out because I just love hearing about Indigenous culture. So that's pretty cool. Directing and writing, yeah. This is tough. I still think it's tough because something's telling me the Queen's Gambit is not going to win everything. I don't know what it is. It's that little voice in my head that keeps me up at night. What do you think, Daniel?
I think Queen's Gambit gets one of these. I think, especially after creative arts, I actually think directing is the easy one for me. I had it at number one sort of as a placeholder before creative arts for directing, and I looked at my predictions, go like, oh, it's the only thing that can win that. Like if it can beat WandaVision in crafts like sound and picture editing, then it really feels like it's going to have the director's branch support too, and I can't see the other nominees really pulling a surprise there. Whereas in writing, I think the Michaela Cole factor is what will push that ahead, and writing is also where we see interesting kind of idiosyncratic things happen at the Emmys. The Hour upsetting a few years ago, the 2 or 3 years in a row that Black Mirror won, all of them British productions, so that could be a factor. And just the personal narrative of it, of Michaela Cole, they embraced the show so much. It's inspired by her own traumatic experiences with assault. So I feel like if they're going to reward it somewhere, this is the best place to do it. So I'm going with I May Destroy You there with Queen's Gambit in second. It could just sweep everything. But yeah, I think it's one of those two.
What about you, Charlie?
Yeah, no, I'm on the same wavelength as Daniel. When something does that well at creative arts, usually the easy category to predict is for the main ceremony is directing, and I think that's going to happen with Queen's Gambit. I am sticking with Michaela Cole for writing for I May Destroy You. I think that to piggyback off of what Daniel was saying, in how The Hour surprised. That was also a huge surprise because that was the year that Behind the Candelabra was sweeping everything. Like, it was sweeping ridiculous awards at the Creative Arts Awards, very much the way that Queen's Gambit did, but still couldn't win writing. So I think that may be that one category where we're going to have that slight discrepancy.
Yeah, we've got to remember the writers are a discerning bunch. And yeah, like I've been saying I May Destroy You for a very long time. I switched it out for Queen's Gambit because I'm one of the bandwagoners. I just couldn't believe how much the Queen's Gambit won last weekend. It just blew my mind. I never saw that coming. I really, really honestly didn't. And so I'm going for Queen's Gambit in both, but I May Destroy You, I would just be thrilled. I'll be up on my feet cheering if Michaela Cole can take that home because the writing on that show was phenomenal, and I'm sure writers agree. Mare of Easttown is also a really great contender in both categories, and WandaVision gets 3 nominations in writing. I mean, that's impressive for a Marvel show. I mean, it's just brilliant. What a brilliant show that was. I hope it wins something tonight. I really honestly do, and hopefully that Catherine Hahn will be the one to take it. So guys, we've talked about those categories. Let's now move on to a category that I know we're going to have some, there's going to be some disagreement here. Okay, so that is, I'm just going to skip ahead to, let's do both. Okay, we've got a little bit of time up our sleeves. Limited movie actress and limited movie actor. Actress is being presented by Beanie Feldstein and Sarah Paulson, who are currently starring in Impeachment, which, by the way, is so much fun to watch. And then Taraji P. Henson is presenting limited movie actor. Now, actress seems to be a bit more settled after last weekend. Actor, we've already talked about throughout this whole pre-show. We're all over the place. Is it going to be Ewan McGregor? Is it going to be Hugh Grant? Is it going to be Paul Bettany or one of the other two? It's very, very hard to say. Anyone who says they know for sure is just telling you nonsense because it's just going, who knows? Just throw it up in the air and we'll see what happens. But Tony, give us some compelling arguments of what you think will happen in those two categories because they're both such strong categories.
Oh, I think that actor is really, really just a it's terrifying every time I look at it. I just go, yeah, but. It's the yeah, but category because any argument you make, you can always respond with, yeah, but. So I think I'm going with Bettany. I think there's two. I think the only other person that has a compelling argument to win is Hugh Grant. There's been enough stuff written, and I'm not going to take a position on it one way or the other about whether or not the Hamilton guy should even be here. But there's been enough traction in that narrative that there could be, especially, when you only need a small amount to win, granted that there are 5 nominees here. I don't know why we still only have 5 in the acting categories like this. It's ridiculous. I just think there might be enough to quell some of the Hamilton support. I don't see Ewan McGregor winning for Halston. I really just don't understand where that narrative is coming from. Hugh Grant gave the more kind of transformative performance. It's something we really haven't seen from him with this, sinister, murderous human who you just kind of despise. But The Undoing, not beloved. So I think that leaves Bettany as kind of the, and combined with his, really beautiful performance in Uncle Frank on Amazon, I think he's the one that I think has the strongest narrative to win. But I could see this I could definitely see Hugh Grant taking this. I don't buy the Ewan McGregor or the Hamilton guys winning this.
Yeah, I'm completely on the same page as you. Charlie, what do you think?
I just got to echo what Tony said about the whole Ewan McGregor thing. I don't know where this thing is coming from. Because even if, you take the whole thing that, it's not nominated in limited series, and yeah, you can apply that to Hugh Grant, but Hugh Grant's more of an established name and more of a marquee name that grabs your attention. So I think that is going to bode well for him in that one. So I'm sticking with that, but I mean, it is not at all confidently.
And what about you, Daniel?
I'm going with Hugh Grant. I will disagree slightly about not being able to see the argument about literally any of these. I was looking at this category and I decided to write an article just being like, okay, this category has no front runner and no one would be an upset. And it's in that weird space where you have the combination of Paul Bettany and WandaVision, which is not the kind of performance you'd expect to win, but it's the program with the most support. You have Hugh Grant and Ewan McGregor, who are more the kinds of performances you might expect to win in programs that Emmy voters didn't really like all that much, judging from the nominations. And then you have the myriad factors about Hamilton with how beloved it is as a property, how controversial it is as an Emmy nominee, the fact that you have two of them in here, but it also has the most acting nominations of any movie or limited series, so we know the actors branch really loved it, so they are in it too. Lin-Manuel Miranda is the face of it. Leslie Odom Jr. is coming off of 2 Oscar nominations, so he's really hot right now. So it's really a 5-way race. I'm going Grant. Not very confidently. I do think I will make the case for McGregor that on paper, this is the Emmy winner. He's in almost every scene. He's playing a biographical figure. He's suffering personal and romantic woes. It's a big, plate throwing performance. His character.
He throws plates.
Yeah, the character contracts AIDS, and he's suffering from that in the last episode. I have big problems with the limited series, and clearly the Emmys did too. On paper, that's like the performance that wins if the miniseries had been received better. But I'm going Grant, and there are just arguments to be made for and against literally everyone.
Yeah, it's a killer. Okay, so guys,
I have a question though. Like we didn't really talk about actress at all, about limited actress at all, and I'm still scratching my head on that one. My brain says go with Anya Taylor-Joy, but I mean, could Kate Winslet pull this? Are any of you predicting Winslet?
I was, but not anymore.
I think she could win. I switched. I was predicting Winslet before Creative Arts, then switched to Anya Taylor-Joy along with a lot of other people. It's one of those interesting things. It's because the Anya Taylor-Joy performance is such a quiet, understated role. I could see that limited series winning while Kate Winslet wins actress. I could see it happening. I'm not predicting it. I could also see like the love for Michaela Cole pushing her past both of them, and that could be like one of your surprises of the night. But yeah, I'm on Anya Taylor-Joy. It feels like the safe bet given how huge it is, and of course she is the center of the Queen's Gambit.
Yeah. Look, unfortunately, we have to move on. We're running out of time. I assume you're all predicting Crown, Queen's Gambit, and Ted Lasso. And I don't think there's a great argument to make for any of those three not taking it out on the big night. So I'm going to invite in our final group of people to join us, and those people are David Buchanan, Matt Noble, and Riley Chow. So while they're coming in, I'm going to say goodbye and good luck to the illustrious Charlie Bright, Tony Ruiz, and Daniel Montgomery. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for your insights. Have a great Emmys night, and I'll see some of you, I guess, on the post show. And if not, we'll probably be gas bagging throughout the whole evening anyway via our private messages, and of course our live blog that you should all be checking out at Bell Derby. Make sure you start making or finish making predictions, everybody. You're running out of time. Hurry up. Get on with it. So where is our new group? Come on, people. I'm waiting. I'm getting cranky.
They're very intimidating.
We could talk about drama actor and actress at the same time.
We could, but we're not going to, because then I have nothing left to go for my last half an hour.
Well, I will say while we're waiting, I will say of those obvious frontrunners, I'd say The Crown is the only one that's slightly vulnerable because of how much Mandalorian has, how much it won at Creative Arts, how it has acting, writing, directing, all of those important categories. So I'm not predicting it, but I think Mandalorian is a strong second in a way that the other two categories, I don't think there's a strong enough second.
And watch out for pose upsets.
Yeah. Yes, I know. Okay, well, I don't know where our last group of people are, but while we're
stuck
waiting,
with us.
Screw them. Tony, you're going for Billy Porter and MJ Rodriguez in drama actor and actress. I know that for a fact because you've just been like hassling me for days and just harassing me about. No, I'm kidding. You told me about it, and I would like to know why you're making such a silly choice, because that's just crazy.
First of all, I've had Porter since the beginning. I've had Porter absolutely since the beginning. I think he has the narrative. And I think he has the tape far more than O'Connor does. MJ was a recent convert. I think again, narrative trumps a lot of things, and there's a narrative for MJ Rodriguez that none of the other nominees have, and never underestimate the Emmys' desire to make history.
Okay, on that note, I'm going to make history by saying good night and good luck to Daniel, Tony, and Charlie while we bring in, finally, David Buchanan on the East Coast, Riley Chow in Vancouver, and my compatriot Matt Noble, both of us in lockdown in Sydney. So, guys, this is where we're getting towards a pointy end now of what we're talking about tonight, and we just had a little taste of drama actor and actress. I'm going with The Crown to win both. Emma Corrin was the breakthrough performer of the season, and her Diana was just iconic. And Josh O'Connor should have won last year and is I think, going to win this year. But we shouldn't sleep on some of the other contenders in that category. So, Matt, tell me what you're going for in the two top drama acting races.
For drama lead actor, I am going Billy Porter. I think we saw Pose do really well on the weekend with a couple of awards at the Creative Arts. It's done well with nominations this year, breaking through in more acting categories than we've seen before. Billy Porter has won this category before, and he's just such sort of a centerpiece to the show as well. So I think that, I'm going with him. I'm also going for The Crown in drama actress, but this is my sort of big out on a limb prediction. I think Olivia Colman might upset here. I think she's the, maybe as the more respected, the person who actually dons the crown in The Crown. And we've seen Claire Foy upset before. They love the Queen, Emmy voters.
I would just love that to happen. As much as I think Emma Corrin is awesome, I mean, Olivia Colman is so great in The Crown. And Claire Foy's won 2 now. And surely we're not going to see Olivia Colman have to wait till she reads a speech in season 5 or 6 to win an Emmy in the Guest Actress category. So hopefully you could be right.
And I think Emmy voters might reward sort of the 2-year performance of Olivia Colman over the 1-year performance of Emma Corrin.
Good point. Very, very good point. David, what do you think of these two top categories?
I have Porter in actor, much for the same reasons that Matt does. And I have Corrin in actress. I fully buy the Rodriguez narrative. They've done an incredible job campaigning for her. So I feel like that's possible. But, the sweep mentality we've been seeing in these categories with the popular vote, I find it very hard to believe that there's just not more viewers of The Crown than there are Pose. And I feel like Josh O'Connor is not in as strong a position as Corrin. So that's why I'm predicting him an actor and going with The Crown and actress. I'm kind of hedging my bets a little bit, but I could see, one show taking both of them.
Riley, before I go to you, I want to mention in the comments, I hope I say your name correctly, but Sinatemba McKenzie says to watch out for Elizabeth Moss. And I must say, until about 3 days ago, I've had Elizabeth Moss in the #1 position for a very long time because her performance in season 4 of Handmaid's Tale was just undeniable. It was one of the greatest things I've ever seen her do. But I just think Handmaid, unfortunately, is going to probably leave tonight with a huge goose egg, which is really unfortunate. It will hold the record for the most shutouts ever. It will beat Mad Men's record, and that really sucks because The Handmaid's Tale season 4 was phenomenal. So there's that. Riley, tell me, whatever you say generally happens. You're just so good at this. Tell me what you think.
Oh, thanks, Rob. I have Emma Corrin because she is the kind of upset that we would be predicting if she weren't in the series frontrunner. But she is in the series frontrunner, so she can't lose. She's the young breakout star.
For a lead actress, how many episodes is she even into the show?
7, I think.
7, yeah. Not even in every episode of the show.
She is she's in the wrong category, but we've known that for almost a year now, so we've kind of moved on.
Yeah, I mean, they had to split them so that Gillian would win one and Emma. They should be in the same category. You're right, Matt. What about actor, Riley?
Yeah, I've got Josh O'Connor just because The Crown is so far ahead.
Yeah. I really hope it's going to happen. We're going to move on, and then we might even go back and talk about a few things that you guys wanted to mention before we say goodbye. So, by the way, Anthony Anderson, Tracy Ellis Ross are presenting drama actress, and Catherine Zeta-Jones is presenting drama actor. We then have Variety Special Live, presented by Adie Bryant. That one's a tough one, I have to say. I don't really know what's going to happen here. Yeah, I need some help. So, Matt, what do you think?
I think that's going to be the inauguration, celebrating America.
Really? Okay. Yeah, I think a lot of people are going with that one. Are you going with that one because it seems like the safe bet?
Sort of, yeah. I guess it's the safe bet. It's also just like I feel like it was a refreshing sort of thing in a post-Trump world. And I think it's not really a post-Trump world, but you know what I mean? Like it sort of signaled the end of the Trump presidency and the beginning of the next chapter in American sort of political history. And I think the Emmy voters will be suckers for the sort of patriotism on display.
And also, Emmy voters are generally bleeding heart liberals, like, most of us, I assume, on this chat. So I hope all the MAGA zombies don't come after us, but I think you could be right there. I wonder, does the inauguration special often win whatever the category used to be in the past? Because this has changed over time, but I just don't recall it ever being a huge player. Does anyone have anything that they know off the top of their head? If they don't,
I don't think Trump's won.
No, I don't think it did.
Don't think that was nominated.
That was Jackie Evancho was the #1 headliner for that particular inauguration, and also Ted Nugent and I think Kid Rock. An amazing array of talent for the Trump show. I think they also had a couple of monkeys came out and did a juggling act, and then Trump spent a whole half an hour just putting makeup on. So I'm surprised it didn't win.
That's what happens when the Emmys are fixed. Yeah.
It's rigged. It's all rigged. It's all rigged. It's probably the mail-in ballots. Riley, what do you think is going to win Variety Special Live?
Pass.
Really? Okay. You're very verbose today. And David?
I have it too, just because I think in terms of sheer number of eyeballs that were watching these things, the Oscars, even though, didn't it just win production design last weekend? Yeah. So some people, people are aware of it, but the ratings for all these things are so down, and I feel like the inauguration had the most number of eyeballs, so why not predict it?
Yeah, I have the Oscars in 5th because I just thought, even though its production design was great and some of what they did towards the beginning was fantastic, I thought it was probably one of the worst produced Oscars I've ever seen. And no disrespect to them, they tried their best in a very awful situation with a pandemic, but not a great show, and I hope it doesn't win. Sorry. I think the Grammys will win. I have that in #1. I thought that was the best awards show of the season by a country mile. It was so entertaining, so well done, so refreshing. That's the way you do a pandemic show, not the Oscars. And then I have Stephen Colbert's Election Night 2020 in second, with Celebrating America in third. I just don't buy the inauguration. I just, oh my God, can you just imagine? I can hear Sean Hannity's voice already, just complaining about the left-wing Hollywood voting for the Biden thing. Now, let's talk about the other category that's even more exciting, and a lot of people, particularly in our chat room, who really love Bo Burnham. You don't love him as much as I do, so just sit down. What's going to happen in Variety Special Recorded? It's Hamilton v. Bo Burnham, with American Utopia, West Wing Special, Dave Chappelle, Emmy magnate Dave Chappelle, and the Friends reunion, all kind of bubbling up underneath them to perhaps maybe spoil that one. It's really, really, I think Bo Burnham's going to win, but it could be Hamilton. What do you think, Riley?
Yeah, I've got Hamilton, just because it got so many nominations that, it shouldn't have. And Bo Burnham, I thought, could have gotten more wins last week.
Okay. David?
Yeah, I have Hamilton too. I don't think people are happy that Hamilton got so many acting nominations, and I don't think any of the actors are going to win. But it has such kind of broad support that, I don't know, again, the eyeball thing, we're in like this era of the popular vote, and I just feel like more people have seen Hamilton and know about Hamilton and will by default check it off. Even though, Bo Burnham did fairly well last weekend, could have done better, like Riley said, but, not a poor outing at all. So.
Yeah, I think if Bo Burnham had won all the awards he was up for last week, it probably would have made us feel a bit more confident. Hamilton, 6 months ago, I would have said to you, they've got that in the bag. It was such a pop culture phenomenon. That's all I could hear in this household for months, was that bloody soundtrack and having it playing off the TV. And then in the last few weeks, all I've ever heard really is Bo Burnham. So, I mean, it just depends on whether the Academy has a really good memory or not. I think that's where I sit. What about you, Matt?
I'm going with Bo Burnham. I think at the end of the day, as much as I would like the West Wing reunion special to win, that would be the one I would be voting for to win. But I don't think that's going to happen. I think Bo Burnham, and the reason I'm landing with him is it's just so original. It's something like, in a word of like Hamilton, which was a Tony show that was recorded, The West Wing and Friends, which are just sort of getting old casts back together, things. Bo Burnham did something that seems sort of unique to this year in television. And I think because of that, because he did something original for this year, that will probably get the most votes. But, like Hamilton could easily win. And I'd actually be fine with that, because I think they were both great television productions, and I like different things about both of them. But
yeah, I think you're right. And with when you talk about originality, the West Wing special certainly has that on its side too, because they redid the episode Hartsfield Landing on stage. The way they filmed it, it was just so well done. I just happened to be in the middle of a West Wing rewatch marathon. I'm up to Noel, which is one of the greatest episodes of all time, the episode that Bradley Whitford won his first Emmy for. And so I'm in West Wing mode at the moment. If that wins, I will be in tears. But I think you're right. I think Bo Burnham has this, and I really hope, as Chris said, I hope he's there.
And the good news is for West Wing, Hartsfield Landing, the original version of that episode, was part of their submissions for Best Drama Series that year they won. So,
so
they got some.
Maybe that might be a good omen for it. I don't know. Sphinx Productions mentions in our comments that didn't I not like Glenn Close doing Debut, and I certainly did. If the Oscars wins, it'll be because of that, and they can thank Glenn Close. She can't win an Oscar, but maybe she can win them an Emmy. We'll see. But yeah, people love Hamilton, but being the TV, Hamilton takes off a little of the shine. I think that's right, Tom Gladstone, as well. I think that's a good comment. So we're going to move on. We've only got a few more categories to talk about, and we are kind of running out of time. After that, after Dolly Parton presents the Variety Special pre-recorded Emmy, we're going to have the In Memoriam segment, which will be presented or introduced by Uzo Aduba. And then we have comedy series, drama series, and limited series. Aquafina's going to present comedy series. Adrian Brody's going to present drama series, and Angela Bassett, the wonderful 1 in a billion Angela Bassett's going to present limited series. So I think we all are on the same page about what will win here. David, did you make a quick switcheroo to Queen's Gambit after last weekend? Is that because that's what I did? Is that what you did?
I think I've had it by default for a long time. Or if I didn't have that, maybe I had WandaVision in first and toggled them. But yeah, after the creative arts, I mean, you know, we don't want to read too much into those tea leaves, but after its performance last weekend, you know, it's very hard to kind of smartly predict anything else unless you really, you know, have your finger on the pulse.
Yeah, absolutely. Riley, what about you?
Yeah, let's use all the screens here. Yeah, the Queen's Gambit is done. I said it before the casting award, and I'm still saying it after the casting award where I was wrong. I have Mare of Easttown. The Queen's Gambit missed some key nominations in the nominations phase. They missed Bill Camp, and we would have been predicting Bill Camp to win had he been nominated. They missed Mariel Heller, also a shock. And there's also not a surplus of support among the actors that would have gotten Anya Taylor-Joy a nomination for SNL. Instead, she was beaten out by 2 guest actresses from a Black Lady sketch show. So we've seen many times over the last few years where a frontrunner will miss key nominations, and then we'll say, oh, but they have so many others. And then we'll just brush it aside, and then ultimately they lose. I'm talking about Stranger Things missing Winona Ryder. Then they dominated at the creative arts, albeit not to the extent of the Queen's Gambit, but then The Handmaid's Tale just swept the main ceremony. Stranger Things got nothing. Or The Handmaid's Tale Season 2 randomly misses a directing nomination that it had the year before. Or last year with Ozark, Tom Pelphrey. He was somebody that we would have predicted to win. He missed. Ozark did not do very well at the main ceremony. Or The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, you know, misses writing that second year. And it still has, 20 other nominations, still won, you know, more creative arts awards than just about anything in history. But you can't miss these key nominations and still win at the end. I think everybody agrees that Kate Winslet was better than Anya Taylor-Joy, even though Anya Taylor-Joy won the Globe, the SAG Award, and the Critics' Choice Award. Like, this should be a formidable performance that is sweeping, but we all acknowledge that it's not. So I think there's, I guess some people have switched to Anya Taylor-Joy in last week, but I think there's a deficit there. Mare of Easttown won the TCA award, and it's just higher brow. It's on HBO. The Queen's Gambit was a huge hit, you know, with audiences everywhere, but I'm saying it's done.
Wow, that is a ballsy pick. I'm so glad we left that to towards the end because I think you're really out on a limb there, Matt. I can see you are just like beside yourself. Talk to me.
Okay, well, like some of those shows you went through, Riley, were not front runners to win awards, and like you had, like, to counter you had Homeland missed out on nomination for Mandy Patinkin for season 1, and we all said, well, if you can't get a Mandy Patinkin in, it can't win Best Drama Series, and it did. So, like, I and in some of those categories with like Bill Camp and Marielle Heller missing out, we had Thomas Brody Sanger and Moses Ingram that no one was predicting get in. So I sort of feel like that's a bit of a wash. That being said, I do think Queen's Gambit's a little weaker than a lot of people are thinking at the moment, just because we haven't seen the actors branch weigh in yet. And we could be in a situation where in a couple of hours where we've got Mare of Easttown sitting on 3 acting awards, and we're going, oh, wait a second, maybe there's a bit of a late surge. That all being said, I think Queen's Gambit is the more iconic series of the two. I think it's the more memorable series of the two. I think it's gonna. I have unwaveringly had it in my best miniseries predictions the whole way through the season to win best miniseries. And I think Anya Taylor-Joy is in a very tight race with Kate Winslet, but I think she pulls it out. And I think my opinion is it's a better performance. It's a more nuanced one, and I think the character like of Beth Harmon is a more memorable character. Yeah, that's what I think. I think it's going to be a good night for Queen's Gambit, maybe, but Mare of Easttown poses some big threats in the acting races.
So interesting. I love this debate because in actress, I think Michaela Cole gives the performance of that category. And if I had a second choice, I would have gone with Elizabeth Olsen in WandaVision. So like, it's a really difficult category to predict.
Yeah.
A limited series, they leave it to the end for a very good reason. I have a feeling Queen's Gambit's going to take it, but I wouldn't be surprised to see Mare of Easttown. It's so exciting that we get to have these wonderful categories with such great content. Before we go, guys, we have a few more minutes. I wanted to know, like I asked some of the other guys that have joined us today, and I say guys because I don't think we had any women join us today, but that's just the way it has, the way the cookie crumbles. We'll have Joyce Eng joining us after the show. Don't worry, everybody calm down. Now, what do you think will be your big, no guts, no glory, huge surprise? Oh my God, quick, call the FBI. Apart from Riley's big shocker that he just talked about, what do you think, David, have you got anything to regale us with?
I have a few acting choices that are probably very questionable in hindsight. But I think, and I don't know how odd this is going to be, but I do not have Ted Lasso winning writing or directing. I don't know if anybody else, has them losing. I have Flight Attendant in directing and Hacks in writing. I just think, there are the vote split, we don't want to overanalyze vote splitting, but I feel like the choices amongst those nominees in directing and writing are not as clear cut as, let's say, Schitt's Creek, when it had two writing nominations last year, the series finale, and then, one of the high points of the season. And it was very clear that everybody was going to vote for the series finale. I don't think that's the case with Ted Lasso. And if it loses writing and directing, this is the same spot that Veep was in when it won 2 of its 3 comedy series races, 3 directing nominations, 2 writing nominations, no clear, choice amongst them as the one choice to coalesce around, and it doesn't walk away with the prizes. So that's kind of my bet on Ted Lasso.
That's really good analysis, David. Thank you for reminding me about Veep, because that's a really good example of how Ted Lasso could easily fall over on in those 2 races. What about you, Matt?
I predicted the same in writing and directing as you, and that's
good.
Partly because I thought oh man, I could predict Ted Lasso and still be wrong.
Yeah.
With my prediction. I might as well, so that's sort of what so there. Directing on the drama side, I've got Pose winning directing for the final. I think might take advantage of some vote splitting for the crown there, and I think the series final of a show that's really had its sort of best year in terms of key nominations sort of seems like a good fit for me. I'm trying to think if there's any other we've talked about Olivia Colman, which is sort of my sort of limb sort of thing.
Yeah.
Brett Goldstein, I think, will be able to rise above the guys on Ted Lasso. I think just that's the less piecemeal performance. He sort of seems like the more significant character in the show. So, yeah.
What about you, Riley?
I've got War for the crown winning directing. I don't think the directors know the difference between the Fairy Tale and the War episodes. I don't think either is a flashier title than the other. And I don't think they know who Ben Karen or Jessica Hobbs are. So I think they'll go with Jessica Hobbs.
Okay. That's very interesting.
I like that.
I like that. It's certainly
I mean, last year they had Mark My Lodge for Succession versus Andre Perec for a different episode of Succession. Mark My Lodge was a past nominee, so I thought that he had some name recognition, but it turns out he didn't.
Well, Hunting was a far superior directorial effort, though. I mean, in hindsight,
people know what the title Hunting or this.
I guess
is.
I suppose.
Yeah, I think they're choosing the name that they like better. In this case, I think they're going to like Jessica Hobbs better than Ben Karen.
In limited supporting actor, are any of you going for Thomas Brady Sangster?
I've got David Diggs.
You got David Diggs. Jeez. Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm guessing you got him because he won the Tony. He was nominated for a SAG. He's very popular. He's everywhere right now. Would that be the reason?
I mean, we don't know what's up with these Hamilton nominations, but the TV Academy nominated all of them. So they're clearly fans of nominating the show. People love David Diggs. He got that SAG nomination. Evan Peters has had a rough time at the Emmys so far. I do have Julianne Nicholson for supporting actress. I think Kathryn Hahn is the kind of winner that we see at the Oscars. like Yo Jung Yoon, where you can be kind of the standout performer of your show or movie, and then you can be awarded for it. I think the TV Academy just coattails. I think, you know, Julianne Nicholson, she'll just be able to ride the coattails of Kate Winslet and Mare of Easttown, of course. Like, well, I won't go into examples, but we'll say that.
Well, I'm a bit worried about the Catherine Hahn win. That's going to really just for my own personal disappointment. I mean, if Gillian Anderson somehow loses, which I don't think will happen, of course I'll be devastated. But she's won a lot, and I think she's okay. Whereas with Catherine Hahn, I think really deserves a win, and I think for help creating this character, which I hope we'll see in future Marvel movies. I hope she bloody well wins, or I'm going to be really, really pissed off. Okay, well, look, I don't think we have any other major categories that we have to talk about. Final thoughts, guys, because I think we all need a quick toilet break, get a cup of coffee, get your champagne, and then get stuck on that couch. So anything final to add before we say goodbye? No? Okay.
I'll say for limited writing, I think Michaela Cole is safe enough there because they've, subverted the limited series frontrunner so often with the Black Mirror, beating Big Little Lies, which won everything. I think the writers are savvy enough that they can sidestep that. In the comedy writing, directing categories, I think it's a question that goes back to something like Veep versus Master of None and Transparent. Like, did Veep lose those awards because of vote splitting? Or did it lose them because its competitors were more directing driven, more writing driven? So I think we could see that manifest somehow with, Hacks and The Flight Attendant and Ted Lasso.
Okay, very interesting. There's so much to think about. We've got a few more minutes till the show starts. Everybody, I'm pretty sure the prediction center is closed. I've asked you on numerous occasions. If you've missed out, that's your tough luck. What are you doing? You're just sitting there doing nothing. No, I'm kidding. Enjoy the night, guys. Thank you so much for joining me. Riley, thank you so much for doing such an amazing job directing this crazy pre-show. Thanks. You're always so good at this. Enjoy the show. We'll see you for our post-show. Matt is hosting. I'm so excited. Matt is the best hoster in the world. Enjoy the show. I'm going to enjoy the show. I'm going to go and get a glass of wine. It's only 10 o'clock in the morning here, but I don't care. And we'll see you soon. Everyone enjoy. And thank you for joining Gold Derby, the place to be for every awards show in the world.